Oh. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of the Agape Network Success Discussions. I am Kendra T, CEO and founder of Blue Lotus Consulting, and I have with me the lovely Tiffany Renee. Tiffany, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Renee with TK Coaching Company. Get in the game.
Awesome. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about leadership shadows and how do we cast a positive leadership shadow. So believe it or not, we are all leaders. So whether it's in your home, your community, your job, your church, you have a role that you play within all of those circles. So the question that we're asking, and we're going to spend some time talking about three things, but the main question is, what are you projecting to others, your friends, your family, people that you meet on the street? What are you projecting to them? How do people view you as a person and as a leader in your circle? So we're gonna talk a little about leadership shadow. So believe it or not, we are all leaders. So whether it's in your home, your community, your job, your church, you have a role that you play within all of those circles. So the question that we're asking, and we're going to spend some time talking about three things, but the main question is, what are you?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think I heard a backdrop. I'm like, wait, what's going on?
There's no problem. So we're going to spend some time talking about three things. What is a leadership shadow? What does it mean? We're going to talk about two types of leaders: people that you follow because you have to, and people who you follow because of who they are and what they represent. And then we're going to give some tips on how to cast a positive leadership shadow. So I guess to set the foundation, what is a leadership shadow? The concept of a leadership shadow, from my reading and research that I've done, was started or introduced in the 1970s by Larry Sinn, who actually did a dissertation on corporate culture. And part of his dissertation was the leadership shadow. It took quite some time after that, but back in, I guess, in the 2000s, so about 2006, there was a very popular book called Winning Teams and Winning Cultures, where the process of casting a leadership shadow was basically rebirthed. And it really took off, especially within the business community. So pretty much to sum it up, a leadership shadow defines what your level of influence is of the people that you lead or you encounter. It reflects who you are as a person, who you are as a leader, how you conduct yourself. Tiffany, Renee, what did you find out about a leadership shadow, as far as what it is and how it's defined?
Basically, just like you said, I found that it is something that we project, whether we know it or not. So you can be whatever position that you hold, people are watching you all the time, and your influence is basically what your leadership shadow is. So what people project or see you as, what is it is, and that thing can be good or it can be negative, based on how you carry yourself, or I guess maybe the attributes that you possess and you use to lead others.
Right, absolutely. And we have to be conscious of that. Because as a person, as a leader, just as a leader in your own home, people are looking at you. Eyes are always on you. So you want to always make sure that you are projecting that which you want to project, because whether it's your kids are gonna see what you're doing and they're gonna mimic exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That works in the home and it works outside of the home, in your church. Even people walking down the street is like, oh, she's mean, or oh, he's mean, and that's just what you're giving off to others. So let's talk a little bit, Tiffany, about these two types of leaders, because I think that's where the bulk of our conversation will come from. And I know you definitely have some examples of both types of leaders that you've experienced throughout your work history, or just in church or in those areas. So first we want to talk about the leader that you follow because you have to. Um, Tiffany, what are your experiences with leaders that you had to follow just because it was just something that was required of you?
Right. And most experiences that I've had, that's been in the form of a boss, where that person was in that position, and because I was a subordinate under them, of course I had to acquiesce to the things that they asked me to do. And I've had experiences where that has been positive, and some experiences where that has been negative. But just being in positions of having a boss, mainly when I've experienced where it's someone that I've had to lead, and even in some instances when I was in church, it may be a ministry leader that I've had to follow because we had the same mission for that ministry. And so because they were in that position of leadership, I had to acquiesce to the things that they asked, as long as it's ethical, of course. I've had both positive and both negative experiences with leaders or people that I've had to follow because of their position of power, I guess you would say.
Right. And I've had similar experiences. Well, like you said, in form of a boss or in form of in ministry, if we want to take it to that level as well, because I went to church because I was told I had to. I went to church and had to sit under a pastor. I might not have understood what he was saying or understood, or maybe I didn't agree with what was going on, but it was because I was made to do so and I had to do it. My mom was not having it. It was not an option. So definitely being under that influence, or whomever is the influencer. In that case, it was my mom. In the case of, like in your situation, Tiffany, is a boss because you need a job. You have to work.
Right.
You're subordinate under them. What does that make you feel like? I can say in my case, it wasn't a good feeling to follow someone because I have to. It may be just because of personality or my own personality, but how did that make you feel being in that situation and having to report to a leader that you just had to do it?
Yeah, and that's sometimes it depends. If it's someone who is who I can support their leadership skills, or if they're casting a good leadership shadow, then I don't have a problem with following, because usually that aligns with the things that that I stand for. But
Right.
in experiences where it's been someone who maybe abused their power and used their position of power negatively, then that didn't feel comfortable. And that can be very frustrating because oftentimes it may have, well, in one instance, it was like I was working for a principal, and I was, well, my students were performing very highly, and she had a problem with me because I would do some things that were outside of the box. So I would try to I would ask to do different projects that were not necessarily your norm. And because she had that position of power, she, vetoed a lot of the things that I asked for. And so that didn't feel good, because the things that I asked for were things that I felt could have really helped to take my teaching to another level with my students. And because she had that position of power, I had to acquiesce to that. And so that, that made me frustrated. So it didn't feel good.
And I would say I probably mirror your sentiments exactly. One thing I will say is a positive on following people because you have to. You build a lot of character,
Yes,
a lot of and a lot of character, and which that can be a good thing because it's just kind of breeding ground. So as we continue, like I said, we're all leaders in some capacity. So as you continue to lead, as you continue to be that beacon wherever you are, you learn some skills that are invaluable on the job training, as I would call it, to be able to position yourself have to deal with those things, and even check your own self and say, is this the way that I lead? Is this the way that I act when I'm in a position of power?
Mm-hmm. And I've learned too that oftentimes that leader that if I'm following a leader that is negatively casting a negative shadow, you learn what not to do.
Right.
So, and the lesson of learning what not to do is so, so valuable. So just if you are even if you're in a position right now where you're following somebody who is casting a negative leadership shadow, just remember that the lesson of what not to do is so valuable to wherever you're going from here, because you'll know how not to treat people, and you know, however they treat you and it makes you feel a negative way, you know not to do that to the next person. So you learn, I learned extensive amounts of what not to do and in those experiences.
Absolutely. So let's flip this script a little bit and talk about the people you follow because of who they are and what they represent. And one major leader that I know, Jesus. Jesus set a great example while he was on earth. And one thing that is so impressive to me when I think about it is that we know of Jesus' birth, and then he was gone until, we had some accounts of him as a young boy, but really his ministry took off when he was 30. So what was that time between birth and 30 years of age? What was he doing to cultivate himself to be that leader? He had to be doing some great stuff, because everyone, when you think about his leadership style, was more like serving others and, helping people get to where they needed to be also, and doing the work that he was called to do. And so I know of one person, actually an instructor that I had in undergrad, where she was like the best person ever in my book. Just a person that always was upbeat. She had a lot of charisma, but one thing, she was very firm with us. She kept us on task, and especially in my profession, we sat in an auditorium for 2 years. My last 2 years of college, I sat next to the same person 2 years straight. So, even when we had like a bad test or a bad exam, you can just see her coming in with candy. She had given like us some tennis balls. So she put smiley faces on the tennis balls and started throwing them in the auditorium, and just reminding us of, the things that we were here, the goals that we had to reach. And one thing that was really impressive for me is the fact that she was also a student too. So she was playing both roles, the teacher and the student. So just those little things right there, how she walked in integrity in the things that she did. You wanted to follow her. You wanted to know what was next. And that was my account of someone who I thought that I follow her, and I still keep in touch of a person who, because of who she was and what she represented, made me want to continue to be around her.
And that's what you want as a leader, is for people to want to follow you. The biggest thing of casting a great leadership shadow is getting people to function in their gifts, and automatically to support whatever mission or goal that you all have to do together. If you can get somebody to really just show up and want to do what you need them to do, then you have really casted a good leadership shadow. One of my experiences is my spiritual mother, who is Dr. Starline Carter, who I talk about all the time, because she really was God sent. And she's blind, but she's traveled the world. She speaks several different languages. She's a great theologian. She knows the Bible, and I'm not talking about like scripture. She knows books, like she can verbatimly give you. No, it doesn't say that on this, she's, and she not only does she can't just speak those words, but she applies the word to her life. And I sat under her for about a year and a half, just working with her under her tutelage, and the way she handled conflict, the way she handled people. She's not the most mushy person, but she is one who, when you're in a bind or you need something, she always is there. And she lived by example. So her example, the things that she was doing, like helping people and serving to the capacity that she serves, just made me want to follow her. And she was always encouraging, and she would say to me, "You're going to be even greater than I." And I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible. I really don't know how that's possible, because I mean, she's done so much, and just being who she was just taught me that you can do anything that you really put your mind to. She went blind at 16, but that didn't stop her from accomplishing all that. She has like 6 degrees. That didn't stop her. And even at 16, she was already out of college. Yeah. So and so even when you hear her story, she just is one of those people who whoever worked with her, she would pull the best out of you. And I think that is what you want when you are a good leader, is to be able to pull the best out of people.
Absolutely. And you're right. We definitely want to make sure that as we are casting our shadows, and like I said, we're going to give some tips on how to cast a positive shadow, but you want to make sure that your focus is on the people that are around you, or the people that are closest to you. You think of who do you have within the span of your control? How can you help them to get to where they need to be? How can your leadership shadow be cast onto them? And just going back to just thinking about the disciples. It was 12.
Right.
His influence spread, but he was able to pour. Jesus was able to pour into them so that they can go out and continue to do the work.
Right.
And that's the stance that we need to take. So definitely from your mentor and from one of my instructors, it's like what they pour in, you can continue to pour into others, who continue to pour into someone else, and it's just like a domino effect. And that's the kind of thing that we want to make sure that we're staying focused on, is that what's our level of influence? How can we pour into others? And continue, we can be filled up too by people that pour into us. And it's just a constant flow of, great positive energy, great leadership shadows. And more importantly, you have a group of people that are doing what they know they're supposed to do.
Yes. Because I think about like how Jesus was with the disciples, he was like the first life coach ever, like he asked questions, he would give those parables, but anytime he spoke, it made you think and it made you act, so there was always a transformation going on with your encounter with him. And even with the disciples, he would ask them those questions to make them think. And because they started thinking, it changed the way that they saw things. And in retrospect, it changed their lives, and so like you said, we want to pour into people, and it will be a domino effect. And Jesus is definitely the master teacher in that.
Absolutely. And just being cognizant of the fact that our own hearts or our own selves, even in this situation, or within your level of influence, will be changed too. Mm-hmm. The transformation starts on the inside. I believe that.
Right.
Transformed in your own heart, and then you'll be able to people will be able to see that transformation. They're gonna want to know what's going on with you. I see something different in the way that you act, or the things that you project, or the energy that you're giving off. I want to know more about what's going on with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So we hope that as you are working in your communities and your homes, we're going to leave you with some tips on casting a positive shadow. What does that look like? And just some words of wisdom. Tiffany, I'll let you start.
So as you move on in this wonderful world that we call Earth, you're going to encounter people on a day-to-day basis, and just understanding that people are always watching you, and that it doesn't matter what role you play, you are a leader to some extent, whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, sister, brother, whatever role you play, you have a sphere of influence. And so, like Kendra said, just remembering to first start with taking on some positive characteristics within yourself and changing those things that you see that may project to be negative, because people are watching, and what you project, what you put out there is what they will receive to be your part of your leadership shadow. So just starting with doing some self-reflecting, and adjusting to the point where you're projecting the things that you want people to pick up when they're around you. That would be one of my tips.
The one thing I want to add, you hit all the points that I was going to hit too. One thing I want to add to that is that always know that people will see you for your actions more so than your words. So definitely be a person that sticks by your words, whatever you say, and you permit what you promote. So make sure that as you are looking at your level of influence, looking at the people that are around you, what you permit, you promote. And so we want to promote those things that are healthy to yourself first, healthy to others. Secondly, because these are the people that are going to mimic exactly what you are doing and what you're portraying to them as a leader. So I hope that you guys have had this discussion is of great use to you, because we want to ensure that for all of those that are watching our Agape Network success discussions, that you're going out and you're leading, and people are following you as you lead, and doing the great work that you are definitely called to do. So we appreciate your time. We hope that these stories and this success discussion continues to empower you as you move through life and move through this realm of Earth. So I am Kendra T.
And I'm Tiffany Renee. And until next time.
Till next time, thanks.
Right.